Hey guys, so I'm back with some new video tutorial. I was working on a project and then I thought, okay, why not why don't make a tutorial about this? Uh, this tutorial is about these effects. So do you see this kind of out of focus on the borders of the image? So there is like some kind of mask. So it's an out of focus mask. So in the center is in focus, and on the sides of this circle is out of focus. It's actually an ellipse. So it's an effect that you see often in movies, and 3D graphics is used to give you some kind of depth. So let's see how to realize this effect. So let's start. First thing that you want to have is a jit.gl. Let me make it this bigger. It's a jit.gl multiple. So V15 is the name of our jit world. By the way, I have a jit world here with the full scale anti-aliasing, size of the window position, floating, race color, and FS menu part 0. And then I have a GL camera with the position 4 to start with a bit of the camera a bit farther from the scene. So let's give two parameters to this GGL multiple object. So the GL params will be position and scale. And then the target name will be like target. Let's create the target. Let's create a jit.gl grid shape, V15 automatic 0 name target. So this is our this is actually a sphere now. I want a cube. This is our target for the GGL multiple object. So by now the GGL multiple object doesn't draw anything because it doesn't have the position where to draw the object. So let's create a jit.gen. Let's create a three-dimensional matrix. So 3 planes, because we need x, y, and z, a float 32 10 by 10 by 10 cubes. So 1000 cubes in total. Let's use a bang. So let's go inside. Let's delete the second input. We don't need it. Let's create a S-norm object. So signet coordinates. I think I talk about that in my tutorials about jit.gen. So if you don't know what the S-norm object does, let's take a look at that tutorial. So let's multiply that by 10. So we have quite a big matrix of cubes here. And then let's create the second. So the scale value. Let's make a fixed value of 0.1. So for all 3 dimensions, it will be. The scale will be 0.1. So let's connect this here and that here. And now, bang, we have our cubes. So 1000 cubes. Let's try, actually, let's give those cubes the lighting enable attribute. And let's move those cubes with a jit.gl handle object. Let's give it the auto rotate attribute to make it more interesting. And let's move the cubes. So, as you can see, we now have a big cube made of cubes. There are 1000 cubes here. And this is our basic scene. Let's see how to implement the effect. So, let's make them rotate a bit. Okay. So, the first thing we need is the GGL node to capture the scene. So, the name of this node, let's call this node. Capture attribute enabled, and let's give it also the full anti-alias to the node, and then erase color also to the node. Good, then let's create a jit.gl.pix that draws to node. In the node context, let's create a jit.gl video plane that draws in the W15 context, and the transformer Z2 attribute to that. Okay. So then we have to change the drawing context for these objects, so it will be now node. So everything should be exactly the same now, exactly. Okay, so let's create our effect. The first thing that we need is to give this image a bit of out of focus, so a bit of blurring. To do that, let's create a jit.gl.pix object that draws to Node, and there is a shader already compiled in the Max library called cf Gaussian 2p.jxs. Let's create this guy a couple of times. Ooh, there's an error. Somehow didn't load it. cf Gaussian 2p. Oh, sorry, it's not the jit.gl.pix object, it's actually jit.gl's lab object. Whoops. Little mistake. So this is a simple Gaussian blur shader. It takes the texture and puts an offset to the texture coordinates, so in the end it gets blurred. It also has a parameter called width, and this is used here to offset the texture coordinate. So by default it just offsets the texture coordinate on the x direction, so we also want to offset them on the y direction. So let's on the second jit slab we want that the y coordinates are offsets. So if we now attach this to the jit slab, now everything is blurred. We made this 2 times because with 1 time the result is not so blurred, with 2 times it is quite blurred, but if you want more you can use more jit slab. There is nothing that prevents you from using more jit.gl slab, but I think 2 it's quite okay for this simple showing purpose. So let's connect this here and let's connect this here. And now you have some kind of bloom effect, not really, but it's just summing the two textures. This is not what we want. What we want is to mix them. So using the mix object, we are going to mix those textures. So this if the result is 0, and this if the result is 1. So this is the normal texture, and this is the blurred texture. Okay, so let's create the S-norm object, and let's take the length of this object. Let's take a look at how this looks like if we simply display it. So you see there is a circle. There is a circle that is the distance of every point on the S-norm coordinates from the center. So the distance from the center of every signal normalized coordinate. So since here the distance is less, the color is also darker. Since the distance here is bright, it's more, the color is brighter. So let's see how we can use that. Let's, for example, use this as that. And we see that we get already pretty quite a result, like similar to the result that we want. But there's something better that we can do, and this is to use the smooth step object. So the smooth step object creates a curve between these two numbers that we input, and if it's less than this number or greater than this other number, if it's less, the result will be 0, and if it's greater than this other number on the right, the result will be 1. And in between those two numbers, it creates a curve. Let me make a graph of the smooth step function. Oh, there is still this image. So let me create a graph. We have x-axis, y-axis, and let's see. So this is 0. So this is our point 0.4, and this is our point 1.2. So let's see, this is let's say this is 1, this is 0.5. So let's see, between 0 and 0.4 the result will be 0, so our smooth step function will return 0. between 0.4 and 1.2, our function will create some kind of curve that is like that. And then after 1.2, the result will be always 1. Pa, pa, pa. Okay, is this a bit clear? Okay, so let's see what we get when we do this. We get a smoother transition between the the focused texture and the unfocused texture. We can also reduce this interval. For example, let's say 0.2 and 1, and now we have the unfocused part is closer to the center. Let's see if we can visualize that by using that exactly. So everything that is in here is in focus, and everything that is in this part is slowly going out of focus, and everything that is in this area is out of focus. So that's it. That's the effect. So I hope this was interesting, and if you have some questions, let me know, guys. See you on the next tutorial. One thing that I can say is that you can visit my website, that it's called www.federicofoderaro, which is my name.com. On this website you can find all my works, my tutorials, and everything basically that I made in Max that is worthy to show. And then you can also support me on Patreon. So there is a website called Patreon, where you can support me donating. You can donate to me a small amount of money monthly, and you will get access to quite a good amount of patches of Max. Mostly, actually, all of them are concerned with visuals, so with jitter stuff, since I'm mostly a jitter guy. So, thank you guys, and see you on the next tutorial. Ciao.